following podcast is rated G for gammon. Please be aware it may contain some coarse language and is not suitable for children or gammon audiences.
Central Central
Hello, welcome to another episode of Them Yarns. I think we're going to need to get our official, unofficial producer of Them Yarns, the podcast, Courage, over in New Zealand. I feel like our audience now know Courage. I feel like they're very adverse in who he is. And I feel like now, you know, the podcast is growing. We might need an Aaron and Carly Say True God new intro song. What do you think, Nagus?
Sounds good to me, sister. I'm all down for that.
Let's do our little tester for him. So he needs something like, he needs a little sample. So I'll go, say true God. So you do it now.
Say true God.
There you go, Courage. Off you go. Go on, cut and edit. He's going to love it.
We're gonna have to get him on the podcast so he can tell us how he does it.
He won't do it.
He's
very shy person. Won't do it. But maybe if you ask.
Give me his Instagram. I'll slide into his DMs.
No, doesn't have Instagram. Doesn't want nothing to do with the gram. He's a very DL guy. So that's how exclusive he is as a producer. Can't even find him.
Can't even find him.
Anyway, hello, brother. How are you?
Yeah, did I?
Yeah, good.
Going good. Getting a bit cool here, I'll be honest.
Not even.
As a saltwater Murray and a saltwater Islander, once it gets below 20 degrees, I don't like it.
When did it get below 20 degrees? When?
It's not below 20 degrees, but it's getting there.
It's getting there, yeah.
So my body is already not looking forward to it.
Well, speaking of, I thought this episode we could get to know each other a little bit better. Well, not me and you, because I feel like we've known each other for a long time. But you know what? You can always learn something new about each other. And I will chuck it out to you. And I want to know, you know, for our audience that may, because I just sometimes just bring people in and I'm like, oh, yeah, you know Nagus. Yeah, everyone knows Nagus. Not everyone knows Nagus. They've been getting to know you. And not everyone knows me either, because people are listening knowing you but may not know me. So
exactly.
You know, I thought let's chat more about growing up black and where we grew up and things like that. So I'll start with you. Where did you grow up?
So I was lucky enough to be born in country. I'm a Bailey boy. My mob is from the Gladstone area in Central Queensland. So that's a big industrial town. So when I say big industrial, you thought I was going to say city. No, it's a town, but it's got a lot of the major. It's got a major power plant, aluminium refinery, all that sort of stuff. So growing up in a construction town. Lots of blackfullas, which was good, but unfortunately not as many opportunities as there are today for mob.
Where did you when did you move away from there?
Well, I moved to Townsville when I went to uni. So I do love Gladstone. Would love to go back one day, but I needed to get out of there at the time. Being a Nagus in a Bailey lad in a small country town, everybody knows you. You can't go anywhere without saying, "Oh, I know your mum, your brother, your cousin. Is this your uncle? Is this your dad? Is that your mum?" Like, it literally could not.
No girlfriends.
No girlfriends. It's even if you have girlfriends, and they probably dated your sister, maybe your sister. Who knows? Cousins, brothers. It's a very lovely town, but not much diversity. And yeah, I could never date a Murray from Gladstone because, you know, we're probably related.
Yeah, let's be honest. So take me back to when you're young. So I'm guessing that was 1885. Now, gammon. So back in the 90s, you're a child of the 90s as well. You know, you were born in 80 something. What year were you born actually?
81.
Hey, what an old guy. Jeez.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're growing up, your formative years are in the 90s. What's Gladstone look like? It's very different now, but what did it look like in the 90s? What did you do in Gladstone?
Well, for me, I was raised by a single mum, two brothers, single mum, and had a big extended family, and it was either church or sport. There was no other There was no other time for anything else. Oh, and fishing. So we did a bit of fishing with my uncles. They love fishing. My mum didn't love fishing, so whenever my uncles were around, we went fishing. But it was largely sport and church. And my mum played sport as well, so
What'd
she
she
was
play?
pretty active. She was a basketballer,
No,
bashaballer, the way that she played. Big black woman just throwing them around.
stellar.
Um, and yeah, so that was it. It was you went to school, you went to church, you went to I played touch footy, rugby league, basketball, everything.
Yeah,
Everything you get your hands. I
wowzers.
couldn't afford to do that today. Like that was back in the good old days when it was
When membership
cheap.
was like $2.
Yeah, yeah. Before you had to buy a mobile phone and all that sort of stuff. So well, it's a really close knit blackfella community in Gladstone as well. Obviously,
Mm,
it's not very big, so everybody knows everybody. You're related to half the town, and the other half that you're not related to, you know anyway, because you're
mm.
all your mobs grew up together. So really good environment. Probably one of the things I miss for my own kids is that they miss out on that sort of connection, just because a lot of the friends and family that I have today are ones that I grew up with back then, and you just knew each other because you just saw each other all the time.
Yeah. And obviously, you said it was not a very diverse community. You have black fellas and was it just white fellas and black fellas? Was that it?
Well, that was the thing. Being a construction town, there was a little bit of diversity, but now it's like it was still pretty white and black.
Yeah.
So one of my best mates was a Maori guy and a Serbian guy. Um,
This is when you were
and
growing up.
this is when I was growing up,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So that was really we were the diversity. It
Yep.
was just us.
That was
It was
it.
just us. So he's the Serbian guy. His family migrated over during the war over there, and the Maori fella, his dad was in construction, so that's how we all met. Like we just sort of all came together, and then some of the other had friends. We had black fella friends and white friends as well, but there was really no that much. And I had another Filipino mate as well, but
Yeah.
that was really all the diversity there was.
I love how
That
it
I
was
think
like
about it.
I had a Filipino friend.
Yeah, yeah, literally. Like, yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah. So, what is it when you're growing up in Gladstone, when you're thinking about a career and you're at school? What did that look like for you when you were younger? Like, what were your options?
Oh, like you were in the so when I say construction, it's like there was all these power plants, chemical plants, aluminium plants, like there was plenty of work to do if you wanted to do an apprenticeship. So the Gladstone's pretty rich in that regard. Everybody was driving around and, you know, utes and all sorts of crazy stuff. I just didn't like working outside, I'll be honest.
So, but there were like jobs, I guess, for black fellas.
Yeah,
Like when
yeah.
you think about it, it's like economic. There was an economy for mob to get jobs
Yeah,
in.
yeah, and it's much better now. They've really um, engaged the community better. Back then, it was just I probably could have been an electrician if I wanted to. That was my other
Mm,
choice. Was I was going to be an electrician because I was good at maths, and that was the only one I could see that I sort of wanted to do. But I wanted to go to uni. My mum was pretty set on me going to university, um, and I liked the idea as well. So.
what did you
Yeah.
end up studying at uni?
Law and sociology. I did a double degree.
And you finished those.
I finished the sociology, didn't finish
I
law.
was going to say, you're not a lawyer. What the hell happened there? What
No,
happened? Dropped out? No good?
it was shit.
I
No, so
love
I
that though.
loved.
We have to be
I
honest.
really enjoyed the majority of law, but it just a lot of rubbish towards the end. Like
Yeah.
it's not something I wanted to do,
Yeah.
and everything that we were learning was like going towards 60, 70, 80 hour weeks, and I was like, you know what?
This ain't the life for
This
me.
ain't the life for me. I don't really want to do that. So
Mm. And you
yeah.
started playing basketball when you were a kid, and then you ended up being pretty good at it from memory. You ended up playing
Mm.
what, like state? Was it state from memory? I can't even remember.
Yeah, yeah.
Fill us in.
So the level below, like the National Basketball League, the NBL, I was in there. I think I was one of two blackfella captains.
Yep.
Played there for years. It was pretty good. Like it was a great time. Had a really good time playing against other blackfellas around the state because it was basketball and rugby league was probably the only two sports that we were really playing back then
Yeah.
in Queensland. Now there's blackwells everywhere, but yeah, you were playing basketball, you were playing touch football, you were playing rugby league. That was
Yes.
your three choices. So I uh, I loved I loved rugby league, but I didn't love tackling, and so basketball was just easy on the body.
Oh, yeah, I feel you. I still remember like just seeing your social media back in that day, and it was always you on a bus going somewhere in your basketball team.
Ah,
It was
buses
just
ever like that.
living on a bus.
That's the problem with being in Queensland. Like some people don't, if you don't know, if you haven't been to Queensland before, like you can drive for 12 hours and still be in Queensland. Like it's not, and that was the worst. So we used to play all the way up to Cairns, down to
What? Is
Gold
that how far
Coast.
you had to go at Cairns?
Yeah, yeah. So
And
Cairns to Gold Coast. There's every major town from Cairns to Gold Coast had a team, and we played everybody in the state. So
and there was no flying you because you weren't that flash, so you had to jump on a
no,
bus and
no. Well,
drive.
it wasn't even that
Oh,
was this was before like Jetstar was all that. Like, there was no cheap
true.
flights, so you got to get out of
Damn.
you got to fly out of Gladstone to
Yeah.
Brisbane and then fly to somewhere. So you're paying for two flights for two teams and all the staff and
And Gladdy, it's not easy to get to. You've got the main, I guess, city next to it is Rockhampton. Even then,
hmm
Rocky's a town. It's a large town. That's probably your closest. And then you've got to drive. What is it from Rocky? From Rocky from memory. It's about an hour and a bit or something.
it's an hour. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
about an hour, and then it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. That's it, and then it's like
yep.
beside the ocean. It's got a lot of
hmm
mangroves, a lot of
Yep,
sandflies, is
yep.
what I always associate Gladstone with. There's no crocodiles there. Hey,
No, well, my grandfather said there used to be one in the Calliope River,
right?
but they think that died because I hadn't heard of it for ages. But now they reckon there was one come back through. So one's coming back down again and went down to Agnes and stuff. So they're slowly moving south.
Yeah, it gets
They're
hot
always
there.
down here. They're just coming back down.
Yeah, it gets hot in Gladstone as well. I remember just some
Mm,
stinking hot days. So you went from there. You moved to Townsville. How long did you spend in Townsville?
4 years.
4 years.
That's how long the
The
degree
uni,
went.
yep, okay,
Moved
standard,
back, moved back to Gladstone.
yep.
The,
Basketballed it up.
the funny thing is, I went to uni and then went back to Gladstone and went back. I worked in construction.
Isn't
My
that
mum
like,
was like, "What are you doing? Like, you
oh,
literally." I was like, I just didn't want to. It was easy money. Like they were
yeah.
paying blackfellas lots of money to do not much. But
Mm,
then I just felt myself, my brain was just dying. And I was like, I need to get out of this. And then I went more into the social work stuff.
yeah. And so then you ended up in Brisbane. You ended up in Brisbane
Sunshine
for a bit,
Coast.
Sunshine Coast. Have
Mhm.
you ever lived in Brisbane? No.
No, no,
It's always
I
been
hate
sunny
Brisbane.
coast, hey.
I hate Brisbane.
Hey, come on now.
The
Um,
I could never live there.
Brisbane Blacks, you listening to this?
Brisbane Blacks. I'm talking to you,
Nah.
me engine. I love your city, but I'm never
You're not
living there.
welcome back down here, all right? Nah,
Yeah,
Gavin, like I own this place. Okay. And then where did you meet your wife?
Gladstone. She's from Gladstone too.
Did you like know each other growing up?
No, not really. So she's a little bit. She's a year or two older than me. So
Okay.
we ran in different circles. She went to a different school. She went to the Gamma public school. I went to the Dudley
Oh.
one. So that was
Which one
the.
was this? Which high school?
She went to the Tallulah, which back then had like the
Tallulah.
brown
Leave it
gammon,
alone.
gammon brown uniforms
Yep.
and gammon people, but
And you went
um,
to
stayed high.
Gladstone State
Gladstone State
High,
High, yeah.
blackest high
Yeah.
school ever.
Blackest high school.
It
That was
really
the best.
is.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so we played basketball,
Can
all
I
that
can
sort
I
of
give a
stuff.
shout out to Gladstone's number one listener, Ambrose, brother Ambrose Pullwell, my
Ambrose.
brother. That's where I first met Ambrose was Gladdy, and
hmm
that's how I know all the schools. So got to give a shout out to brother Ambrose if he's listening.
He's
Loves the
my cousin, you know
podcast.
that?
Yeah, I do know that. He has
Bailey,
to call
Diddley
you.
Bailey, South Sea fella.
He calls you an elder. That's what he told me.
Oh, he's gonna get uppercutted then.
Hey, Gavin, he's gonna uppercut me for lying.
You better not call me Uncle Cuss, or you'll get it.
He's calling you out there. That's what he's calling you,
Mhm.
granddad. Now, okay. So you met outside of school.
Yeah, we met when we were adults.
So
So
who?
she come to watch me play basketball.
No, okay. Wait a
And
minute. First of all, how did you meet? So she didn't come to watch you play basketball. Surely not. What
no,
she
she came to
knew.
watch one of her
Okay, there we
one of
go.
her family was
The
playing.
truth prevails. Thank you. Okay.
But then she just followed us around. So I'm like,
She followed
she,
you around. You know what?
yeah.
I'm going to do with your wife, I'm going to do a little segment and I'm going to ask her lots of questions and then you've got to do the guessing. And I want to see how
Uh,
well you know
yes.
her. And
Yep.
yeah, because I
Look,
tell you,
I know everything. I'm a modern day man. I know. You ask me any questions you like.
yeah,
Date of birth,
okay.
color of her eyes,
All right.
probably all of it.
We'll play that game in the future. So
Yep.
if you're listening, wifey,
She will deny that she chased me, but she's lying.
I think you're lying. I think I'm really on her side when it comes to this. I believe that you're completely lying. So who asked who on the first date?
I think after she chased me for a long time, I said, "Oh, what are you doing?"
What
And
are you doing? Is that it?
what are you doing?
Oh my
We're
god.
from Glasson. You
Sis,
say
you
you
fell
are.
for it too. Oh
Yeah, she fell for it.
no.
She already fell for it.
And
Well,
now
what's
she's
she doing?
trapped. She's got 3 kids.
Yeah, that's right. She can't. Yep.
Man, blink twice if you need help because I will get you out of there.
Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her.
Oh, that's
Um,
awesome. How was racism? Because Gladstone's a funny town. It's got a mix of Aboriginal,
mm,
Torres Strait Islander, and South Sea Islander population, big South Sea Islander population compared to a lot of other places. So, how was it growing up there in terms of racism?
it was really interesting that a lot of the people I know now that I grew up with had racist attitudes, but they didn't express it to me.
Or as in
Like I
white
heard,
fellas, as in the people
yeah, as
like,
in
yep,
white people, yeah.
yep.
So a lot of the people I know now, like through social media and stuff, and you know,
Mm,
you see things. So a lot of high school friends and primary school friends have unfriended me because I've called them out for their racist
Were
attitudes.
they always racist or have they developed the racism and then you've seen it? What do you think?
Well, that's what I mean by they never expressed it to me, but
Mm,
I think some of the stuff is pretty underlying, like the some of the attitudes and stuff. You don't get that, excuse me, as an adult. I think so there was always racist, and so I think the first time I got in trouble at school, I think I was 9. A kid called me an abo because we were playing Tiggy and I tagged him, and he's like,
mm,
"Oh, F you, you abo," and so I, without thinking, just punched him in the nose. And then he cried, and then I cried because I was like, I'm going to get in trouble, not
mm.
realizing that what he did was bad as well. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I just thought I've just punched this kid. I knew what he did was bad, but
You didn't
he
get the
didn't dog on me
gravity.
because he
Yeah.
knew that he was going to be in trouble for what he said. So that was probably my first like experience that I remember actually reacting to, like knowing that it was the wrong thing and that he shouldn't have said that. Um, and yeah, so yeah, and then like pretty much every year there's stuff happening whether you're playing sport, playing footy was probably back then was probably pretty toxic. People from the
Mm.
sidelines were pretty racist towards anybody that wasn't white, and they're even toxic to white fellas too. Like we
Just
had grown,
that country
yeah,
attitude,
yeah. So we
eh?
played in the we played country footy, and my high school team was pretty good. We went and played around Central Queensland. We beat everybody in Central Queensland, and in one place that the adults were trying to fight us, like they were just that toxic. They were yelling at us, and this is a high school football game.
Yeah.
We beat their little town, and they were like
Because football is
abused.
life in these towns.
Yeah, yeah, and they
Yeah.
were like full on like being racist because we had a pretty black team. Like my year was one of the blackest years. Like we had the most graduates that ever graduated in town at the time, and I can't remember how many it was, but it was a lot, and pretty much a third of the team was black, and we had my Maori mate and a
Yeah.
big Islander fella, and so you could imagine we're rocking into.
Not the Filipino fella. He was like, I'm
Not the
sitting this
Philip.
one
No,
out,
no, no. He,
boys.
he, he never played. He never played nothing. No one wrote it.
Poor
He was
fella.
poor fella. But yeah, so that's probably sport was probably the most common place that you
Yep.
saw racism in those towns, and it was, well, obviously, it was my most common interaction, so that's probably why I saw it more. But
Yeah. It was probably similar to where I grew up. I would say of that there's racism, but as being a majority of black fellas in those towns and you have
mm,
all your family, you have all your your mob around you, you feel like kind of protected from it at the same time. Like if you were
Exactly.
just one black kid in a community, you know, in some town growing up and you experienced it, I can't imagine what that must feel like, because I grew up, I guess, like you, where you would experience that racism, but you just had everyone around you. And so
Yeah,
it's just, yeah, it didn't, I don't know, it hurt, but it probably didn't hurt as much as I'd say it would happen for others.
exactly. And I think that was the prevailing thing, right? Because
Mm.
I knew a lot of people, my family was pretty big, and also like my brother and I were like good at sport, so
I was going to say your popularity with sport probably also
it would have helped. Like people were less
helped.
likely
Yeah.
to, yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got no doubt that there was a whole bunch of racist stuff that I probably missed out on because people were like, oh, he's one of the good ones,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
that rubbish.
Interesting. Well, I've liked getting to know you a little bit more. There are things that, you know, we just didn't know. So shall we flip it?
Yes, let's flip it.
Okay, you got to ask me the questions now.
Oh well, wait. I've actually gone to Uncle Chatty here for this
No,
because I'm
don't
not
get on
a.
Uncle Chatty. This has got to be a genuine conversation. Chatty's not going to help you now, okay?
Yeah,
Get
yes,
out of
he is.
it.
So we know that you're from far north Queensland, from that little country town. But what is your first memory from your little country town? Tell us where you're from first, but then tell us what your first
Yeah.
memory is
Okay,
growing
well,
up there.
those that don't know me, grew up on the Atherton Tablelands, specifically a place called Yungaburra, which is my country. But when I first grew up, some of my very first memories are at a place that is just behind my auntie's house, and we lived on like a farm, but it wasn't our farm. It was like the Tablelands is very black, white, and Italian. That's what it
Italians, yeah.
was when I was growing up. So a lot of the farming belonged to the Italians. So we lived on this Italian family's farmhouses, I guess you could call them. There was two of them. One in front was my auntie and my mum's sister, and then we lived behind her, and literally would have to walk through Kalgoorlie in the mornings to get across, like the same bridge that the cows, like dairy cows, so this is where I grew
Yeah.
up. Dairy farmers, that's where I'm from, and the cows would walk across the bridge in the mornings. You know, they have their little thing to go and get
Yeah.
milked, and the same bridge we would have to cross. A huge bridge too, by the way, and then there's a drop. So we'd have to walk along the edge of the bridge where there was no guna. And that's probably like some of my very first memories is very young, growing up there and then catching the bus into Atherton to go to school. And then we moved out to Yungaburra when I was about, 6 or 7, and grew up on what's called the block. It was called the block because it's like surrounded by water, it's surrounded by a lake. And yeah, so I grew up out there and I loved it. Loved growing up on country, same as you.
What was the when you say it's mostly blackfullas, whitefellas, and Italians? What was like? What's the population we're talking? So you went, because when I say small country town,
Yeah.
we still had like 35,000,
Yeah.
40,000. But what was yours?
Nah, we did not have that. Oh, by the way, the farm place where we grew up, there's no one else around. There's literally just farm.
Just you.
And then
yeah,
a couple, like one or like another house, a couple of kilometers away. So yeah, we literally grew up on a farm, and our toilet was out the back. So
Yeah,
and
out the
and green frogs in the toilet. So that's why I have a fear of them. But I grew up in that kind of environment. Then going out to Yungaburra is more suburbia, I guess you could say. But even then, I think Yungaburra maybe had less than 2,000 people when I was growing up.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
very, very small town. It's one of those little tiny towns where you just drive through on the highway and you blink and you miss it. And it's a gorgeous little town. It's like a village in the rainforest type situation.
Yeah, that sounds beautiful. So you had around 2,000 people.
That was just my small town.
just
So
your
then
little
Atherton
town.
was a
And
little bit
Atherton's
bigger. That was in town. Atherton was
in
town. So yeah,
And did you say uptown? Like when you're going uptown, like, oh, we're just going uptown?
we're going uptown. Yeah.
You did, eh?
Yeah, we did. We're going into town, and then we had to do our shopping because my little hometown only had a small little convenience store that was also at the time the news agency. It had one post office that's over 100 years old. Still looks exactly like that. It's got one pub, and what else did it have? One takeaway at the time, and there was a really good restaurant, which was super weird at the time, but and then I think, one or two like galleries, but
Yep.
that was it. There was and a petrol station. So
Yeah.
that was
Awesome.
it. Caravan park. Yeah, caravan park. There was nothing to do. So when we had to
Nothing.
go to shopping, you'd either go in town to Atherton.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the schools were and all that kind of stuff. Youngbar had a school, but it was very, very, very tiny. So yeah, main town was about how fast? About 20 minutes away from Yungaburra. So you just drive into town. There's no buses. There's nothing transport. If you don't have a car, you're walking around the farm.
That's totally.
Yeah.
And how far? And you're closest to one of my favorite cities that you probably don't think is your favorite cities, but how far away were you from beautiful Cairns, which is probably somewhere that
Cairns is
people
one of
might
my
know?
favorite cities. Cairns was the city for us, so we're going that's gone to the city, and we would go there every fortnight because Mum would get the pension, so we would go to Cairns to do our shopping because Atherton was too expensive because it's up in the mountains from Cairns. So if you see the Cairns mountains, you look behind those mountains, that's where the Tablelands is. It's up in the hills in the clouds. So we would go to Cairns every fortnight, and that's about an hour and a bit away, really, Cairns, down a huge range with over 200 something bends in it. So imagine that every fortnight you got to go an hour and something away just to get your shopping. At Franklin's. Remember Franklin's? No frills?
Franklin's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bilo then. It was Bilo. Remember Bilo? Yep.
Yeah. I loved the bends. What was Gillies Range, is it?
So there's the Gillies Range. You can either go up to the Tablelands a few ways. There's the Palmerston Range, there's the Gillies Range, there's the Kuranda Range, and there's like another range kind of like towards Gulkul-Yalanji country, up towards Mossman ways. You can go like a back way to Mariba. So, but either way you go, you've got to go up a hill.
Gillies Range was my favorite. I remember driving down that, and I was like, "This is like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like if you want to do that properly, you would be."
Yeah.
It's no wonder people were dying.
And that range never used to have guardrails. It was just cliff straight down. And my mum used to just cruise up it with a cigarette and just one hand. Yeah, and that smoke and just and just crossing over the road.
That's totally. So it is a really beautiful place. I suggest if you don't know where she's talking about, Google it. Really beautiful part of the country, and one of the rainiest parts of the country too. Is it Ravenshoe was like the wettest town in?
God. It goes between Ravenshoe and Tully and Babinda every year of which one is the wettest. And growing up in Yungaburra, it's North Queensland weather. You get hot, cold, wet or dry. But when it rains, it's like that depressing drizzle.
Yeah.
And my mum didn't have a car for a long time, and my mum didn't get her license till she was, I think, in her late 20s, maybe early 30s. Yeah, so we used to just walk everywhere. We were always walking or getting lifts with people. My mum used to catch our bus into town with us on the school bus, Nyon, because there was no there was no buses. So when I was really little, she would jump on the school bus with us, and it was quite normal. But I look at it now and I'm like, could you imagine your mum getting on the bus with you now? You'd die.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, and then you're walking in like drizzly rain, and then you just wet all day at school. And for North Queensland, we had yellow uniforms, bro.
What?
Yellow.
Oh my
It was just the worst. So you're just sweating it up. But in saying that, we could wear basketball shorts to school, and I actually didn't wear shoes to school properly till I was in grade 8.
Yeah, definitely.
We didn't have to wear shoes. It was optional because it's too hot for socks. So, there was no high school where my town was in Yungaburra, so we had to go in town, which was good, 40 minutes on the bus.
Yeah.
But first you have to ride your bike kilometres to the bus stop, which is the school, then get on the bus with every rascal in town. Now, I mean rascal, like I was at the bus stop the other day here in Brisbane, and there were about 6 different high school kids from different schools at this bus stop. And I'm thinking, this is quiet. They were all standing there like angels. My bus stop when I was at school, boys were like spraying wasps with the friggin' lighter and the deodorant, and like there would just be chaos, smoking. There's someone pulling bongs.
Bites.
Like it was just chaos, man. So it was a good place. Good place to grow up though. Really great place. I grew up with all my family, all my mob there on my mum's side of my family. We just had the best time. It was always hanging out at the creek, going for walks. I used to, go to the lake all the time, go swimming after school. Like, it was just growing up black there, not easy because very, very country, very hick, racism like rife. But again, like you were saying, I think I was a part of that black family that was one of those families that really led. My elders were all like leaders. So they would be up the front. They're at the housing co-ops. They're leading wet tropics management for the area to get our rainforest protected. Like they were those people. So I always had that instilled in me. So to just, if anyone ever said anything, which this light skin did me no favors growing up because I was called black this, black that, abo this, coon this, those languages. I'm going to say it because that's what we grew up being called. So my light skin didn't protect me at all. I was the black girl like anybody else because my family's black. So yeah, it wasn't an easy place to grow up in that sense, but such a good way, grounded on country with your cousins, just stories, family, big, we used to have bonfires and family cook-ups and all that. It was just, and sitting under the stars, man, you can't beat that stuff.
Yeah, you're a lucky person to grow up in that beautiful space because it is amazing.
God's country.
All right. So you've grown up in the tablelands and then you've moved to the Big Smoke. Where was the first big move to?
Yeah, well, I knew I wanted to get out of the tablelands since I could remember. I've always felt, I don't know if it was like and not only knowing recently that I have that ADHD or, autistic traits, I always saw like my world a little bit differently. Like growing up like you, in your town, you had construction, you had industrial stuff, like there was that type of economy. We had farming. That's a big farming place, but the people that own the farms are like Italians. Blackfullas work on the farms and they work really hard. And like you, I was like, I'm not doing that. And Italian mob work hard. Like a lot of all my best mates growing up, all Italian mob and Murrays, and, that was it. There was, honestly, you'd be hard like check to find an Indian person, a Asian person, anyone else where I grew up. It was just that sheltered. So yeah, I just saw that and was like, I don't want to stay here. I always saw myself very differently. I don't know. It wasn't that I was like, oh, I'm too good for the tablelands. It was like, I just can't imagine like being pregnant.
Living that life.
Yeah, because that was the thing. It was like you stay here, you get pregnant, you work on a farm or you become a hairdresser, and there's nothing wrong with those things. It just wasn't for me. So, and I just wasn't very good at school. I was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do in this place, but I don't want to stay here. And I just wanted to run away from my mum, to be quite honest with you, because she was strict. So I was like, get me out of here. I turned 17 and I cruised to the Big Smoke, to Townsville. I went to Townsville.
Oh, Brownsville.
Yeah, the sticking place.
You're 17, you're about to turn 18, you're in Townsville. What was your first job moving to Brownsville?
Well, it's funny to say because we go, oh, the big city. It actually was the big city to me because it was the first time I'd ever caught a bus that wasn't my school bus.
Wow.
We don't have buses. We don't have trains. We don't have any of those things. So I was just a nervous wreck. My mother was a nervous wreck of me leaving home. I was excited to leave, but I also was very sheltered because you grow up in this small country town and surrounded by everyone, and then you're just by yourself and no idea. I went to uni for a year. I did like a bridging gap thing, and then I was on Centrelink for a year, and I ran an absolute muck and had no plan. My first actual job was when I was at school. I had a traineeship at the local gallery that was there, so I did hospitality. I did like a traineeship, and I was like, I will never do this as a job ever.
Never do hospitality?
Ever again. And so it was like, I will work hard in my whole life to never go and do hospitality again because I just was never good. I hated it.
You've got to have this really special patience. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I'm not the customer service guy.
The customer service people, like, I don't know how you mob do it. It's
hats off.
I work with people every day, but the customer service, I'd be headbutting somebody's throat. I don't know what I would do, but it would not be employable.
And back in them days, it was hot, man. So I'd have to walk to my traineeship in this boiling hot, North Queensland heat, and that heat is just neck level. And if it wasn't hot, it was raining. And my mum was big on do you have petrol money? No, I'm not driving you. You can walk.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, it's 10 seconds down the road. Oh, don't even get me started. She'd make me walk. So it gave me an appreciation for being independent. I had to be because I didn't have a mum that was going to take me anywhere or do me any favors. But that was actually my first job. But then I got to Townsville, was on like Centrelink for ages, and then went, I need to get my ass into gear and actually do something. And I wanted to do radio since I was like 17. And I went to, I remember going to my guidance counselor and going, how do I do radio? And he's like, I don't know, I can help you become a farmer or a mechanic or a hairdresser in this town, but I can't, that's too out of the box for someone from the Tablelands. So I just pursued it myself, man. I started volunteering at the Murray radio station, went in there, and I had a friend that was working there, and then I approached the manager and was a nervous wreck and said, can I do some radio airtime on the radio? I don't know what to ask. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. I'm like, I remember just like, because it was like my ultimate dream. I was like, I want to do that. That's what I want to do. And I just sat on it for like weeks going, how am I going to say this? How am I going to, what if he says no? You know, I was only 17. I just turned 18 and he said, yeah, that's fine. We can start you off with an hour. And I just volunteered and then I just worked my way up. And then, do you want to come in and do a paid shift here? Do you want to come in like panel for this person or fill in for this? And then I ended up becoming full-time there after about 2 years. But I'd spend my last little $20 of my Centrelink money, catch the bus from Kelso, the ends of the earth, the blackest suburb in Townsville, go all the way into the city, spend my day there in the studio, and shout out to Black Shadow and the brothers there and all the mob in Townsville. And she was just hanging out at the station all day with the mob and became part of the furniture. I think my photo is still up on the wall there, 4K1G, shout out. So
shout out 4K1G.
That was my very first job. It's really good, like, you know, well, in terms of my full-time professional job, that was my very first job, was my dream job. So I did pretty well. Yeah.
Not many people can say that.
Nah. And I got nominated for a Deadly Award. Remember the Deadlies? Hey?
We would get the Deadly Awards next year. The way this podcast is going.
That's what I'm saying, bro. If you don't know what the Deadly Awards are, bro, you're too young for me, is all I'm going to say. I got nominated for one of them. It was actually such a cool time.
So what years? So you're a DJ, radio jock. What years was that?
That was oh my God, I was going to share my age. 2000. I started when I was it was 2003 when I was just turned 18 and I lasted there till 2010. No, sorry, 2009. Wow. So I was there for that long. So you
got there the year that I left, 2002.
Yep. So the year that you left, I graduated high school.
Couldn't have handled both of us. Lucky for Townsville.
It happened for a reason. God intervened. Nah.
This is not too much. We can't let them both be there at the same time. So you're the next big step. You're moving down to the biggest smoke we got in Australia. It doesn't get much bigger.
Sydney.
Why did you go down and
I didn't win the Deadly Award, so I chucked a massive tantrum that game. And after the year, I got nominated for the Deadly, and I feel like at that time I'd spent however many years at the station and Townsville. I only went to live in Townsville for like a year, and it turned out to be 7 years. And I made some really deadly friends there, and knew lots of mob, from there, and just felt like my time was. I was 25, and I was like, I want to do something different now. I've done this, got the Deadly nomination, I've got the breakfast announcer position and gotten better at my profession and, just want to challenge myself. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I actually, you know what, it's really funny. I was thinking about this the other day. I was going in one or two ways. I was like, I put in for a air hostess, and not many people know this. I know.
Air hostess.
I know. Look at his face. He's like, what?
What?
Because I'm quite tall, so they wanted tall gummers at the time, and I was like, I just want to do something new. I don't know what I want to do. I'm very adventurous in that sense. Like I put myself in stupid, crazy, random things, and then I freak out about them when it actually happens. So I went, I'm going to put in, and I think it was a Virgin or something. It was a Virgin air, and I got through to like a few different rounds, and
wow,
they were about to fly me to go and do the actual training, and I got a call from brother Brad Cook down in in Sydney who was a friend of mine through radio at the time. He was working at Corey Radio.
Yep.
And he now is, he is the lead commentator, I would say, of Aboriginal Rugby League for the Knockouts. Very respected commentator. And Brad called me and he said, "What are you doing next year?" And I said, "I don't know yet. Might be a flight attendant. I don't know." And he goes, "Because AFTRS, the Australian Film, Television and Radio School down here, they're looking for mob to apply for their courses. They never get enough people to apply."
Yeah.
So I seen you're like finishing, like, I don't know. He's like, it's study. I don't know if you want to do it or not. I was like, yeah, I'll chuck in for it. Applied literally my last day at 4K1G. They're having a farewell party for me. I'm writing my application for AFTRS, and they only accept 10 people per year at this school.
Per year?
Yeah.
10 total or 10 blackfullas?
No, 10 total. 10 total.
10 total?
10 total.
I didn't even know.
Yeah, for the whole radio course at the time, which was I think it was just normal radio broadcasting. There was commercial radio and then just the radio broadcasting. And I got in. And next minute I was moving to Sydney, so I had to make the choice. Am I going to be a flight attendant or am I going to do study?
Flight attendant, or are you going to do study?
And for some reason I went, nah, I'm going to do after. So I went to Sydney. Yeah,
That's
and moved there with nothing but, I had a flat. I had everything. I think you even came to my flat once in Townsville. I don't know one person that hadn't been to that flat in Gregory Street in Townsville. It was like, it was the charge up spot. It was the after drink spot. It was the joint back in the day. So, going from my own house, like I had my own apartment, had my own life, working full time, and sold everything, packed one bag and cruised to Sydney and lived at a blackfella hostel.
Oh, no.
And studied. Yeah, it was the most random friggin'. First, I lived in Woolloomooloo with this one eccentric friend of my mother's who was an alcoholic, and that was the worst 3 months of my life. I lived in a place called Heroin Valley. They used to call it Heroin Valley.
Valley.
Yeah, it's a street in Woolloomooloo in Sydney, which is, if you don't know Sydney, it's down the road from King's Cross. And, this was 2010, so this was, the heat of it. It wasn't... Yeah. It wasn't like hectic like the cross used to be, but it was still really hectic. It was still the cross. Now you walk through King's Cross, it's barely anything, but
gentrified now.
Gentrified, but back then it was Heroin Valley, and you had to lock yourself in your house, not lock yourself going out of the house to lock your door. You had to lock yourself in.
Yes.
So I lived with him with literal bars on the windows, in this housing commission area of Woolloomooloo. So that was my introduction to Sydney. But man, it gave me a real culture shock, coming from small town to
you're going from 2,000 people to 100,000 people to
millions,
3 million people. That's crazy.
And living in one of the most dangerous, I'd say, places. Woolloomooloo is such a rich area in terms of culture. In Sydney. You got a lot of mob that lived there at the time. You had there's a lot of homelessness, a lot of drugs, prostitution. So that was where I moved to. It was like it was a culture shock, but it made me so street smart really fast, and I loved it. It was the best year of my life.
Definitely. Highlights and lowlights before moving back to the land of the Queen.
Oh gosh, well, I finished my afters course, which was a graduate. Advanced diploma. It's up on the wall there. See that? Boom! Look at that. Really? Paid $16,000 for that piece of paper. It was a graduate diploma in radio broadcasting, and I was the first Indigenous radio graduate from that school. Ever.
Absolutely.
And to me, I was like, what? Because it had been open since the 70s, this school. But that's how exclusive it is. And I got through it, graduated, and then about 6 weeks later, my mum passed away. So
that's right.
Yeah. So I got a job at ABC Radio, and I had a contract lined up for Triple J Radio to work on the hack program in the afternoons. Yep. And then mum passed away suddenly, and it just threw life like upside down. So you can imagine going all that story I just told you of like from 17 up until then.
Yep.
What I've chased, what I've wanted, and then that happened. And I literally moved home the next day and started raising my brother. And
that's right.
I was just 24 26 when I moved home. Actually, I was 25 still when I moved home to raise him. So I'd gone from millions back to this tiny town, which was Tolga this time,
Yeah.
which was even tinier than Yungaburra, I
Even
think.
smaller.
And
Yeah.
yeah, just raised him, became his full-time carer at 25. And it just, changed my life, brother. Left the radio and left everything. Yeah.
Left the radio.
So that's, yeah.
left the big smokes.
That was probably the biggest down in my life ever. And that was 2 years we lived up home for a bit. And but it was good, in terms of it obviously wasn't good losing my mum, but it was good in the fact that I changed as a person. Up until that point, I was just very selfish, as a 25-year-old is. Just ran amok, had fun, was drinking, partying, just running amok and just living my life and just self-centered. And then I had to consider somebody else. So it woke me up, made me very resilient. A lot of the life lessons that I get through now is because of that time of my life. Like, I had to dig the deepest I've ever dug and got through some really, really dark depression and heavy times, financially, emotionally, like everything. But it was good because I was back home with my family, back home on country, was able to start my weaving and, all of those things. I connected a lot, culturally when I was there, going out to the creek every other week with my brother, just him and I, some really solid memories and things that I cherish from that time. But that was hard. Then, I had to get away from there. So I moved us to Brizzy, the brother and I. And that was a big decision in itself, uprooting us from family and all that stuff. And he was still in school, but
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we moved down here and he flourished. He went to Beanley. Shout out to Beanley High.
Shout out Beanley.
The blackest high school in friggin' Brisbane, I swear. But very multicultural. Our family worked out there as well. So and that's kind of where I connected a lot with the mob here in Brisbane, was out Waterford Way, out at Logan. So that was kind of my first interaction with mob here in Brisbane. Yeah.
The Brizzy Blacks.
And I've been here ever since. So that was 2013.
That is longer than I thought.
Yeah, man. I know it went really fast every year. Someone goes to me the other day, you surely got to be a Brisbane Black now. You've been here for that long. And I was like, good go. I'm no way. Brisbane's it's my base now, but home is always home, you can't say that. And I'd be doing a disrespect to the Brisbane Blacks. I'm not from here, man. I have a deep respect for Brizzy. It's given me a new lease of life after what we went through, and I love living here, but it's not home.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that's pretty similar for anybody that's grown up in small places or even big places, I guess, where you have that foundation is I'm here now, but
and there's that responsibility, right? Like a cultural responsibility of I'll have to go home one day. It's just something that's gonna happen, and I go up home as much as I can, as in the Tablelands and up Cairns Way. All my family still live up there, and it's only really just my brother and our cousin and niece down here. So I try to get home as much as I can, but I'll have to move back, and you'll probably have to move back one day because culturally we'll be called to do things. It's just part of the responsibility.
I've got to be mayor.
You've got to be the mayor. I've got to be the Maze Queen. So that's
Maze Queen. Well, they both start with M. They're both high positions of high importance in the Lyco town, and you both get to go along the main street doing our wave as we go past the people.
Man, true God. Well, that's a little bit about Nagus and I. And if you have any questions for us, send them in. We'd love that. But I thought a couple of little questions I can ask you on our way out of this yarn today. Is what does being Aboriginal mean to you on a personal level?
Oh, that's deep. Good ways. What does Aboriginal mean to me on a personal level? I think for me, it took me a little while to realize what being a blackfella was, because I grew up in a place where it was always black. And so it wasn't until I went to uni. When I was in uni in Townsville, there was a whole lot of racism stuff, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. This is what the fight's about." So we, in Gladstone, they march every year in NAIDOC and stuff, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that we did that I just took for granted as, this is what you do. You get fishing with your uncles and people,
Mm,
you go out in a boat with your uncle and he tells you to jump on a turtle and like all that stuff's just normal. Like that's what all blackfellas do.
yeah.
But then as I got older, I realized like that cultural upbringing that I had and that connection that I had
Yeah.
wasn't the same for everybody. So I think now I feel much more privileged to be a blackfella, like the it, the sense of identity and the sense of pride I have in that being connected to this country and being connected to this land that my old people have been, on for millennia. We don't know when we got here. We just know we've been here for the whole
Mm,
time. So I think that's what it is for me now. Is I feel privileged that I'm lucky enough to be an Aborigine, as that song says.
mm.
Nothing I'd rather be than to be an Aborigine. So that's how I feel about it now, and I'm lucky enough that in my job that I get to share that passion and share that culture with mob as well. So I don't
Mm.
do cultural training anymore, but all my whole
Yeah,
life
you do.
revolves
It's on
around.
them yarns.
Yeah, that's right. Definitely doing that. But yes, I think that's where that passion, and I get to share that. Like, how do we
Yeah.
make places better for mob?
Yeah, like I was going to say, like in reflection of what you said, that normalization that we had growing up black, those things that we just take for granted, that, you're with your mob, you know who your mob are, you're standing on your country, and your elders are telling you, oh, that's where, see this road here, that's where your elders went, that's a main road now, yeah, our elders used to walk down that road, or see this bush
Mm.
here, see that, that's where your grandparents, that was their house, like those things, you don't realize until you leave, and then you meet other mob that may not be as connected, that you go, oh shit, yeah, okay. We may not have everything. I'm not going to be the first one to go, I've got every single thing of my culture intact and I'm
No.
better than everyone else. It's not about that. It's that, oh, I grew up with an identity. I grew up knowing who I am, who my mob
Mm.
are, where I'm from, and people don't have that. And it is that's when you know, like, deeply that, oh, that's actually what it means. It's that appreciation of what you know and how you've been raised.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's probably mine as well. But one more question: what kind of legacy do you hope to leave behind for the next generation? Just a small
Mm.
question.
Yeah. I think I've been working on this for a while now. So obviously I've got kids and got nephews and nieces and got the mob. Um, and so there's a whole lot of cultural responsibility on the oldest in my generation of my mob as well. So there's always been a responsibility on me to have that sort of authority and have that knowledge and making sure we're pushing things forward. So I think for me, it's just making sure that I'm leaving as much of a mark on, firstly, making my kids proud to be who they are and know who they are as blackfellas and as individuals. But also, like, how do we shape the community? How do we impact the community so that the crap that we had to deal with growing up is
Yeah.
not going to be what my grandkids have to deal with. And I think we're on the way there. Like, I think the education system's improving, and as much as conservatives hate to think about it, like, the world is becoming more accepting slowly but surely.
Yeah.
Some really loud, hateful people, but I think that's a legacy I'm trying to leave. Is how do we make sure that people see being a blackfella as a great thing, as a positive thing, as a strength,
Mm.
rather than when we were growing up, it was seen as a negative. So
Yeah.
reshaping that vision of blackfellas.
Yeah, that's a big one. What legacy? Yeah, it's a big question, isn't it?
Mm.
For me, I think it's I want to leave that cultural legacy. I want to be able to leave as much information behind as I possibly can. That's why I'm big on social media. I'm big on
Mm.
things like this with the podcast, sharing stories, sharing weaving, sharing those practices that one day someone can say, whether it's my nieces or nephews or anyone can say, oh, I learned that from Carly, or, like, she kept that story alive from her elders, then passed it to us. So I may not get it always right, but hopefully that's the legacy I leave one day. A bunch of stories, a bunch of silliness.
Yeah, and I
Well,
think
not always. A little bit
not always.
serious too, but
Yeah,
something decent that people can look back on and reflect on and learn from.
exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons I think that we connected at a young leaders program. when we probably didn't think we were real leaders. We were just going there to have a good time with
Yep.
blackfellas and learn something. And then you look at a lot of those blackfellas that we were there with, and there really has been some mob who have
Yeah.
made really big steps for blackfellas, and like you said, like making sure that we're the forefront of what that looks like. So,
I think we can laugh about it now. When I think back at it, right? Because we met at it was called the Young Indigenous Leaders Forum back then, and it's
yeah,
got a different name now. But
it's now called QUILP, Queensland
yeah,
Indigenous Youth Leadership Program.
yeah, and it had a bit of a different setup, but it's essentially the same thing of young blackfellas coming together. I think it was 18 to 25-year-olds coming together,
Yeah.
and you had to apply for it and all that stuff. And I remember applying and going, oh, we'll see. And we must have thought that we were some sort of leaders to put in for that. Like obviously it was going to be like, oh, mad free trip to Brizzy or going to meet other mob, but we must have felt some type of. And I can attest that my elders instilled that into us. They really, in my family, it was about you have to lead, don't follow. Like we in our family, we stand up, we lead, we talk, we represent. So it was always just instilled. That's naturally what I have to do. And it was a learned thing for me. So I was like, oh, yeah, leadership thing. Yeah, I'll apply for that. And it was actually one of the best. It set me up for so many things. I met so many different mob. And like you said, those people now, they've gone on to be CEOs. They're friggin' running departments. Like,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah, like through that. So I stayed under the program for a little while, and like that year, I'm still like close mates with or close friends with like a bunch of people. Like, and then throughout those years, I met different people. Like every now and again, you're like, oh, this like they're a deadly black fella, and you're staying connected with them. So I think that's probably the thing when you see people who have that same fire for mob, then
Yes.
like I think that's what connects us, right? So that's probably one of the great things about those sort of
Yeah.
programs. You get to learn from each other, and you light that fire and within each other good ways, and that's how it motivates you to see other mob like, oh, deadly, like.
And we've literally had lifelong friendships from it. Like you and I have been friends since then, and that's over 20 years, man. So that's a lifelong friendship. I'm still in touch with majority of those mob and have leaned on them once or twice in my whole life, and that they've really shaped who I am, including yourself. And I think back to it now and I go, man, what an experience that was. And speaking of, though, Queensland government, I thought we won't do tea time this episode. We won't do Culture Killers. Let's just go straight into it because we have the election that is on this weekend in Australia. And, if we thought we'd do one last little ditch before everyone is going out to vote to end the podcast off today. Last thoughts, brother, before the election.
I'm going to echo the words of your genius mother is if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. That's my number one thing. I don't care who you vote for, but be involved because that's how democracy works. I know a lot of people don't think that we're a democratic country, but if you don't vote, you don't get to complain. Like we've got to make sure that you're fighting for that change that that you're going for. So I think it's going to be a left-leaning government. So I'm thinking there's going to be some sort of Labor government. I'm not really sure what that makeup will be, but I do think that we'll be surprised about how many of the other smaller people will get votes. I think there's going to be a real big shift away from the two major parties, which I think is a good thing because when they feel safe, then they just do what they like. They need to feel like they've got to do their job, right? So
True. And the last few weeks we've seen the Liberals backflip on a couple of their things and Labor as well. And Trump's just scrambling up the world. Our money's going crazy. Our superannuation. I checked my superannuation friggin' account for the first time. I looked at it and I was like, damn, I got that much money. Give some now. I want some of that money now. I'm not going to make it to retirement. Give it to me now. Nah, but I think what if the Libs get in, brother? What are you going to do? What's your plan?
I think for me, if the Libs do get in, it'll be harder to be a black fella in the country. I think that's the long and short of it.
Which is so hard to imagine, right?
Yeah, and I think we see that in New Zealand. Like they had that recent election end of the last year or start of this year, and I think that's that's the same thing that's going to happen here in Australia. Like there's some really anti blackfella rhetoric coming through from their mob, including from blackfellas that are within that party.
Yeah.
So I think that for me, that's probably the scary thing is we've been fighting for so long, and I'm only young. We're like in the scheme of things, we've got
Yeah.
uncles and aunties that have been on the front lines, trying to fight for change for
Yeah.
longer than we've been alive. But I do think it'll be a kick in the teeth, and I think it just means we're going to have to fight even harder to
Yeah.
get back to which we're still trying to get to equality, really, equity,
Man.
whichever one you want to use.
This, I think, is one of the most important elections that I can remember in, gosh, God knows how long. I really hope whoever gets in is just going to restore some balance. I don't care what it looks like, to be quite honest with you, but you can dare say if Conservative government gets in, it's going to be chaos. So, I'm not the most... Well, I did that test, the election test thing. We can see where
Yeah,
you
did
sit.
you?
Yeah, I did do
Tell
it.
us, tell us the
I
results.
sit on the left. Like
Okay.
yeah, I'm not in the... I'm kind of like center to the left, like I'm definitely not in any sort of right. I'm not even in the teal section. I'm definitely more left leaning, but
Yeah.
I thought I do still have some conservative views. I sometimes go, oh yeah, Jacinta, I can see what she's saying.
Yeah, well, you grew up
Okay.
in the
Nah,
tableland.
yeah, no good. Good go. Nah. But sometimes things around like money, I'm like, what, and just simple, like just certain things like the Greens. I love yous, but I need my plastic straw back. You know what I mean? Like those are the things that I'm like,
You're terrible.
I'm not good. You know what I mean? Like I know there's some of my thoughts where I'm like, just why would you give me a plastic cup but then a paper straw? That don't make no sense to me. So yeah, I'm definitely more left, and I think this election is gonna be one for the ages. That's for sure.
Yeah, no. So I grew up in Gladstone. So, like I said, it's a construction town, lots of unions. So I started left,
Yeah.
and I've just been going further left as I go. As I have kids and
Yep.
seeing their experiences and their view of politics has been pretty special. That when we talk about politics and stuff in this house,
Yep.
and they're like la la la, and we're really big on people and how do we help people. So the older I get, the more left I get.
Yeah.
Unfortunate for the Labor Party who tried to recruit me to run for their party.
Brother, I vote for you in the next election. That's who I'm voting for. At least
So-
I know what I'm going to get.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting. By the time we're back on air, we're going to have a whole new government, and yeah, I guess we just go from there. So
Fingers crossed. Come on, Australia.
get out and vote. Go and
Get
get your
out and vote.
democracy sausage, and
Yeah.
we'll see you. We'll see you after the election.
You.
Central.